usage, which causes a problem in the sense that we need to provide for fire protection. In especially dry months, this is a problem when we did July and June. Not only that, it's ethically problematic for the city to be raising rates on our fixed income residents and not have some accountability for that kind of water. And whether or not it's seen that way from the other side, I really can't speak to, but we do appreciate you coming to the table on this and making this a responsible decision for the community and this community resource, which is our water. And we appreciate all the work that the golf course does on this. It is an asset in our community, but we also need to be protecting our natural resource assets as well. Are there questions from the council on the proposal that came here? I assume this is what, according to our thing, this is what got recommended by the utility board this
Mr.
morning.
Mayor, if I could,
Yeah.
I've nothing to do with this committee, but I think this is a good idea what they did. They actually, I think it was Mike Neese said, if you guys hadn't negotiated, that would have been around $38,000 for the watering period. But they came up with a great idea to use the root rate, which on the guesstimated 47.2 million gallons they'll use, it's around 18,335. That's just as large as no overages. What I would recommend to do, after some of the feedback I got from the meeting, that was 47.2 million gallons over 7 months, and reduce it down to 6 months. That would give you additional per month 1.1 million gallons a month. And the carryover, like if you don't use your whole allotment, say you're 500,000 gallons under your allotment, it rolls forward, which was discussed. It could roll over, for example, and the city treasurer helped me with a spreadsheet. For example, if you underuse 500,000 gallons for 3 months, you'd have a bank account of 1,500,000 gallons you can use for, say, a drier period of time. And then grab a number. We grab 250,000 gallons. You go over what your allocation was. The overage rate or penalty for going over that is $396.18. For 500,000 gallons, it's 792. 750,000, $1,200. And if you use 1 million gallons, it's 1.6 million. I realize, I'm sorry, $1,560,000. So again, we have to give this a try. The 47.2 came up with an engineering best guesstimate at a 1 inch of water through all the golf course. Is it going to work? We don't know until we try it. But through Craycraft giving the county's contact person for a while daily readings, you get an idea of the feel of the gallons. I think Mike said just to fill the system was 23 or 24,000 gallons. Just for example, if we do this for say a week, whoever the contact is, you look at it, we go to a week, so it's not taking a lot of time. If you start pushing, and that if you go to a 6 month basis, on that 47.2 million gallons, it's 7.9 million gallons a month you can use. And still, are you going to use that much? We don't know. There's going to be some periods in the summer it's going to be higher. And once again, we still have to do a water conservation plan to keep things going. So as you go along there, it can be back off. Maybe it rains. You sure don't want to sprinkle during the rain season, but you can build your bank, per se, and roll it forward over into July. With an understanding, in July the water rates go up. Again, that $396 included that rate because it happened in July. But I think, from what I heard, is that going to be enough water? Well, because you went from 6.7 million on a 7 month basis, lower, go to 6 months, go to 7.8, or again, 1.1 million more gallons a month of water. The bottom line is still $18,335 for 47.2 million gallons. It's way less than the 40,000. So that's an idea. When you put a number to it again, it's going to take communication between the city giving the monthly or the weekly, daily meter readings to whoever it is in the county to realize, uh-oh, last night maybe the sprinklers won't turn on. So now you got a party foul, you're going to have to cut back somewhere. It's just, we got to try something, and I think this is a great idea. That Ruth rate was a published rate, they've been using it, pumping water. it's almost a third of what the city rates are. So that's my consideration. My proposal would be go with it, try it, but do it on a 6-month basis. And in October, if it snows, great. And if it doesn't snow, you're still at the lower rate of 20.2652, the lower rate for the month of October. But in 5 months of the summertime, you get to use 1.1 more million gallons of water.
I think that sounds great, and that's, except for the 6 months instead of the 7, that's pretty much what we discussed this morning, so. And I think that's a real workable thing, especially the fact that we can bank the shorter months. Conservation measures are a lot easier to practice when it's cool and wet. But when it's July and August and it's hot and dry, conservation gets pretty tough when we got grass turning brown and we got to protect a facility. So the fact that there's that flexibility, I think that works really well for us.
And part of this recommendation this morning was that would be working towards, or they'd be working towards a new source of water, is that?
Right, but that's, we want to continue working on this just as hard as we've worked on getting together and devising this plan. We want to continue to work just as hard on getting that well back to a standalone situation.
So this is a 2-year plan with the ability to revisit the rates if the need should arise. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But just one point there, that the rate's not changing, you know, that's proposed rate. The Ruth rate is lower than the city rate. It's more on the gallons, I think, would be, I think.
To revisit, yes, based on usage, yes,
Right.
that is correct.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay. So what would the county prefer as far as the month structure goes? A 6-month or a 7-month?
Randy, does the 6 months work?
Well, if I'm understanding correctly what we're saying here, let's just say I go over by 100,000
You gotta
gallons.
come up here, Randy.
Yeah, come on.
Let's just say that first month I go over by 100,000 gallons because this is our first shoot match at this. Am I getting fined for that 100,000, or can I make that up the next month possibly by conserving more and not being billed for that overage of that first month? If we were to go over. Are we getting fined every single time we go over?
The overreach, for example, it was 250,000 gallons is $396. So cut $180 or $180 for 100,000 over. You know, you have to do a calculation. Take 100,000 divided by 1,000 times it by whatever that 1.2 cents or whatever it is. But if you use under, you know, you're only going to pay for what you
Right,
use.
I can bank, I understand that, but
You're asking if there's nothing in the bank,
If I-
what are you going to do? You're asking if there's nothing in the bank, what are you going to do if it's the start of the season?
No, I'm asking, let's say the first month I go over by 100,000 gallons. Am I getting fined for that, or can I make it up the next month and try to get under that 100,000?
There's nothing in the bank at that point, that's what I'm saying.
No,
It's the start of the year.
That 100,000 would be,
So it would be a charge, right? But if, like Councilman Allworth suggested, if we're giving daily usage reports or weekly or whatever, then you can perhaps keep an eye on that usage and adjust accordingly within that
That's what I
month,
need to do.
so that you don't have that huge
We
overage.
made a spreadsheet that we read daily. Now, Tim
Daily, okay.
has asked us to email it to him once a week. If you want it daily, I'll send it to you daily, just in case.
Well, you know, I mean, if we get breaks and stuff in the line and we're not aware, we're gonna have cascading water overnight and things like that that are gonna be, you know, it's hard to account for things like that.
I think that's what the reason is 7 in the morning.
7:30.
So whatever your water cycle is, boom, you'll know that instantly. I mean,
Yeah.
your water in the night, nobody's out there, you're right. It's like a water break in the city unless somebody sees it, but, you know,
And this is the same as all water customers have to do.
Okay.
So would 7 months work better for you, or 6?
Well,
6 would.
6 would?
6 would. Yeah. 6 would definitely work better for them because the 7-month period that was agreed to this morning when the city come back and said, hey, let's take it to 6 months, the concern was, we know that they're gonna use more water in July and August. And so by just coming and doing a calculation to a 6-month calculation, that actually increased your month by 1.5 million gallons.
Sure.
So it actually helps them. The total amount that they can still pump is still the same for the year, but it allows them to pump more in a single month, which is gonna be beneficial to them in their dry months. So you want 6 instead of 7.
Yeah.
And the other part to remember about this is when we started this, I did call a lot of municipalities around the state. I could not find one that waters their golf course with chlorinated drinking water. And there's reasons for that.
But, and for years and years, we did not.
Sure.
But when that well was drilled out there, that took the bottom out of our well. And so our well became unusable at that point. And so that's, at that time is when we set up I was actually sitting in these chairs, and that's when we set up the agreement to tie it into the city system. Just because at that point, it was, we either had to do that, or we as the city at the time, when I was, had to go out and redo the county's well at that time. Because we had never used the chlorinated water to do that before, but that well facilitated the loss of our well.
And if I could, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, he was the councilman, I was the city clerk, the 111 million gallons Chatchis is belling about, that was back in 2011 when the mine was paying for all the water, and we turned on we put the pipeline in with a meter, ran to the golf course. I was keeping weekly rate, reported all the time, and it was a reported number. Nobody had to pay for nothing. The mine was paying for all the pumping costs. The
water was making
the water went through the meter. That's the 111 million gallons that went through it. I mean, that's nothing, no big secret about it, but that was back in 2011 or 12. So there's no money lost anywhere. The mine was paying the power bill, let the water flow, baby, and that's what happened. They could water all day long, all night long at that time.
Everybody else was paying.
And the other issue at that time you had RP6 and RP7 were flowing full bore, and they were doing a great job of keeping the top end of the city. But now that those are starting to phase out, the golf course well is becoming a much more important asset for you. And so that's just a matter of time has changed that.
You know, I've been walking, it's not working.
They said the top of hearing you.
Hello, can you hear me?
It's online. Go ahead and talk to
Okay,
us.
when we started this golf course deal many years ago and funded the next 9 holes, we did that for $250,000 is what Fairmark were putting in that golf course. And that is probably one of the best assets that we could have ever done for that kind of money. I mean, I don't know what the cost per hole is today, but you can't even do a green, I don't think, for $250,000. I mean, to let that thing go under would be just a crying shame. I mean, just a total crying shame. And up until today, I didn't realize that at the first meeting this morning is that our well affected their well. So I think that this is very kind of a mutual deal, because had we not approved all this dewatering and had in mind with this, that well would probably still be pumping down there. So I think that if we can make this, I think it's fair. And after I listened to it this morning, I think I don't know how we can find money to get that well, your well, or a new well, up and going, because that's the issue, is this, that you need a well down there. And right now we're putting 7 million gallons a day down through the leaching brick down there. We're down into nowhere, so 7,800,000, but I did some numbers on that. So I think if you guys are happy with this, then I'm happy with it. And I do want to see, I think we need to be very cognizant of not causing that golf course to go by the wayside. I don't golf, I don't have any interest in it, but I know that it generates quality of life for businesses that want to move into a small community. And in order to have key people, you have to have recreation facilities, and that's one of your facilities that is primary and upmost at the top of the list for the type of management people. That's what I'm talking about. So, at any rate, if you guys are happy with this 6 months, I go back, I didn't hear this morning about we were gonna monitor, meter it daily and check. I think that's a good idea.
Oh, yeah, I think that the communication is gonna make this whole thing work much better.
That's the only way to go with it. You talked this morning about maybe 2 years, you should double it within 2 years, maybe have your well.
We're hoping, we're going to be extremely diligent and work hard to try and get this put together in the next 2 years.
What kind of cost do you think that's gonna be?
DJ? What do you think is gonna be the cost to upgrade that well?
You're probably talking a couple $100,000 compared to a couple million if it was to be a municipal well. And so I think that
Because it's only for irrigation.
because it's only for irrigation. So once you go into a municipal well, that price just skyrockets, because lead-free, all those things associated with a municipal well. And so,
And there's still other options that could discuss too, like using effluent from our plant, or maybe doing some
the only concern that I have using effluent from our plant, which a lot of people are using, as you're saying, is reclaimed water, is we got a user that we have a lease, that we've given a lease to for their branch, that uses that effluent water. So we'd be taking it from one leasee to allow the golf course to use it. So I think that would be tough to do without modifying the lease that we currently have. And so, you know, the well, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the city, is very important to get them off of our system. And the reason I say that is because years ago when this agreement was made, and our current agreement with the mine is 3,000 gallons a minute that they are obligated to provide us. That 3,000 gallons a minute, if the golf course was on our system back in the day that that agreement was made, I doubt the city would agree to 3,000 gallons a minute. We would have realized our demand was much higher than that, and so we would not agree to the 3,000. So our hands are tied today with our 3,000 gallon minute agreement for them, and so this is a benefit to us as a city to get them off of our system, because that's a big demand that we had never anticipated having on.
If there are no other questions or comments.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I inquired with Chris Henson Drilling. I have no idea what size well would be needed out there, but he told me a price for a 16-inch well is $220 a foot, whatever that means. So just an idea to throw out there. And the one thing, you know, I heard, I think somebody said, you know, the greens were in terrible shape. It was really important that we lost our honor camp. Those are the boys who went out there and covered the greens. You know, we didn't have them to do it, so I believe, you know, impacted by COVID. That's no kidding. They took the honor camp away from us, so that the greens are suffering right now because of the ability to not be able to cover them. Just my 2 cents.
If there are any other questions on this agreement, I will entertain a motion.
I would move to approve with the revision to the 6-month watering schedule. Kevin?
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion from Councilwoman Beecher, second from Councilman Alwood. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Kurt.
Kurt? Councilman Carson?
It's a unanimous vote at any rate. Or it's a majority vote. Anything you'd like to add there? Commissioner Mike?
I would just like to thank you for your consideration today and your input. It's, you know, the years I sat in those chairs, we were told for a long time that the city and county couldn't work together. And the last several years, we have proven that wrong. We worked together on so many different agreements, and we worked in cooperation. And I just want to express my gratitude to you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And that this conservation is going to make a big difference for our fire protection and stuff this summer. We're really grateful for you guys working with us on that. So, okay, thank you. With that. that, we'll move on to item 2, board member City Clerk Lee, discussion for possible action, approval to extend the will serve of NDOT's Ely Truck Wash Project, NDOT CR 133 project number 73973 from August 2021 to December 2022 due to a delay of the project in 2021.
For the record, Councilman Carson texted me back, I really guessed, but know why you can't hear me, so I apologize if this is.
We'll fix this for next year, yes.
Okay, on this item, NDOT contacted the city regarding their will serve because it will expire prior to them, or right after they're able to bid out this contract. The plans are done, as you see in the packet. I believe the project is delayed due to COVID. So they are asking for an extension through December 2022.
Motion to approve the extension from Councilman Spear. Do I have a second?
I just got a question.
We'll need a second before this.
I'll second.
Second from Ken. Go ahead.
So this is just a continuation of something we already have in place? Okay,
Yeah, and they just delayed the project.
thank you. Question answered.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. We'll move on to item 3. Board member City Clerk Lee, discussion for possible action, approval to remove pass-through utility fee penalties up to the amount of $2,164.72 from 110 West 9th North in Lund, Nevada, at the request of the property owner, Joe Massini.
So Mr. Massini paid his landfill fee in full of $1,454. He is being billed correctly of $13.79 per month, the residential charge, and his penalties, for example, the last month were $54.51. He is requesting that the penalties be waived.
Okay.
I move to approve.
Motion to approve from Councilman Beecher. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Alward. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion dies for lack of majority. Vote was 2-1.
Kirk got votes.
Kurt jumped off.
Kurt has left the meeting.
Motion dies for lack of majority. We'll move on to item 8, items for discussion, possible action only of the Ely City Council, the consent agenda. We have minutes from March 11th and March 19th, and bills from March 30th. I will entertain a motion to approve both minutes and bills.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion or corrections that you can make? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 3-0. We'll move back to B, new business. Item 2, Councilman Spear, Councilman Allward, discussion only, update on Porter Group efforts on behalf of the city of Ely.
You want to go ahead?
No.
Okay, we're still having our Monday Zoom calls with them. BJ's been sitting in with us. And the quick and short of it is, all of our asks, if you want to call them that, right now they're being limited at $2 million. And that goes back to something that happened back in the Harry Reid day, that evidently somebody asked for the moon and they got the moon and something when they were. So they're starting off the first go around, $2 million for every project, the maximum. It could change after the first go around comes out. But the meetings are very informative, and like BJ mentioned earlier, we're having a Zoom meeting tomorrow at Hyman with the Porter Group. That's about it.
Did they recommend changing some of our priorities based on that? Because $2
Yes.
million isn't going to get the NDOT project.
Yeah, well, they did recommend that on Monday until the email you sent after you talked with Lieutenant Gilbert. So that's why we're having a meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, one thing that I would add to that is that we did, like, we changed some of the priority we did because of the risk of if we granted the money to do the downtown water and sewer, then we would have to cover that back up because we probably had to end up on their project. So it would increase the costs or decrease the amount that we could actually do. So we have, we'll know more about which one we're going to move where but that one's pretty well off the table, so after our meeting tomorrow, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we'll close that discussion item. We'll go on to item 3, Councilman Allworth, discussion for possible action, approval of Civil Science Infrastructure Incorporated service contract to design broadband park concept plan for SNPMA Round 19 grant application.
Okay, if I can have Mike into the speaker too, he can put input on this also. This is the same group that drew the design for the Jack Taylor Park we looked at the last meeting. They're, was it $3,000? Yeah, $3,400. They'll do their, they're gonna use,
The drones.
some drone go over and design with the wishes. They got the survey results and they're gonna incorporate that in there, plus the application letter we sent to the county basically covers all that. We will then have a, here's something to look at type design. But I want Mike, he talks with them more on the credibility or how much business the people have done with SNPMA.
He, Cody, he used to work for Sunrise Engineering, now he's went to the civil science. He done over $57 million on SNPMA projects. He's done every project that I know in the city of Ely. I know he's done ours, he's doing roofs for the county also. The guy knows what he's doing.
So where's the money coming from? 3,400.
Redevelopment.
Okay. I think it's a very good deal now.
You can't hear you.
Redevelopment. $3,400 coming to redevelopment, going once, going twice.
Okay,
We're gonna make a phone.
any other questions?
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve from Councilman Beecher. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Allworth. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Item 4, Councilwoman Beecher, discussion for possible action, approval of support letter for SNPMA Round 18 grant application to renovate the McGill Depot and open the track to McGill.
Okay, so y'all have the letter in your packet. Yeah.
Nice written letter.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for it, but it looks very good.
I'll make a motion to send the support letter for the SNPMA Round 18 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion from Councilman Allworth, second from Councilwoman Beecher. Any further discussion? I know they're in public comment period on this with SNPMA, so as I understand, that's what that's related to, yes.
I believe so, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Item 5, Councilwoman Beecher, City Fire Chief Stork, discussion for possible action, approval of open burner permit application.
So basically, we need to approve the permit that we discussed at the last meeting. But the one question I did have is, we are going to be wanting to do no burn policy in effect here coming up like real shortly. We had a fire Saturday night, wildland fire that started off the side of the highway from a hot part that basically fell off of one of the AGL trucks going through, had a bearing piece broke off at the top, went in the brush and ignited fire. So fire danger is getting up there already early this year, so I need to know to put that no burn in effect. Is that something that's got to come before the board, or is that something I can just do?
Suppose
Maybe Shane knows.
Yeah, let me look into that.
Okay.
Would this be the same application like someone would do if they were doing a bonfire like the high school or somebody else?
Mhm. So this application that we did for the, if you remember, and I think you guys got a copy of it with the draft. So if they want to do the bonfire for the high school or the 4th of July, they're planning, I think, to do one, come get the permit, fill out all the paperwork, so we know ahead of time how everything in place. And then if anybody's wanting to burn any debris or stuff in their yards or whatever, as long as there's not a no burn policy in effect, you know, that we initiate, then, you know, we'll follow the rules of that. We're gonna go out and inspect it and make sure they're not burning tires and garbage and everything else, so.
How about those, you see a lot of these guys got these little pits in their house. In their
So like
yard.
those are,
Like,
I forget how they worded those. I did look at those and some when I was researching and doing this. And I don't see an issue with those right now. Most people have them, got them in their backyard, they got a small fire, they're sitting around with kids, you know, roasting marshmallows in the center of the grass, and you've got garden hose there, stuff like that. So,